significant changes of work practice that are resulting in job losses as a consequence of new technology.
Can you just explain this to me, to the committee? On the 17th of February 2011, Qantas's media release announced a profit result. It spoke in terms of showing an underlying profit of $417 million for the half year ended 31st of December 2010. Made reference to the strong domestic performance of Qantas and Jetstar. It said while demand on key international routes continues to improve, the international environment remains challenging. But there was nothing there about the segment performance in the media release, in the statement, that indicated that anything was wrong with Qantas International. Yet on the 24th of August 2011, 6 months later, there seemed to be this dramatic turnaround that Qantas International reported a loss of over $200 million. Continuing down this path would be unsustainable. How can there be such a dramatic turnaround in the course of 6 months?
Senator, there wasn't. I mean, what you quoted there was we did talk about, we do report...
I've quoted accurately,
yeah,
I haven't.
You have, Senator, but we do report the segments. The segments were reported at the time. We made it very clear that the domestic business was performing well, and we've made it very clear for some time. I think even if you go back to some of Jeff Dixon's comments before I was CEO, we've made it clear for some time that the international business has not been performing and had not been performing for a large period. We made it very clear during the global financial crisis that the international business was impacted more than any other business.
Mr. Joyce, sorry, the 17th of February 2011 quotes you as saying that all operating segments of the Qantas Group were profitable.
Yes, that's true, because Qantas is the operating segment. So Qantas was making money because domestic was making money. That's the same today.
No, sorry, I'll quote you. It says that Mr. Joyce said all operating segments of the Qantas Group were profitable.
Yeah,
would that include international?
No, the operating segments for the Qantas Group are Qantas, Jetstar, Freight, Frequent Flyer. They're the operating segments that we report, and all segments were profitable. Qantas was profitable. Within Qantas, domestic was making enough money to compensate for the losses in international, so therefore the Qantas segment was profitable. That's what the statement says, and that's the position of the airline.
You didn't think it was worth saying back in February that whilst Qantas itself is profitable, international is causing us to hemorrhage?
No, I think it's important for us to say that we've made a decision to try and maintain confidentiality about and not give competitive information away to report the Qantas segment as a whole. And that's something that's been done for some time. We did, because, and for a particular reason, Senator, because people were under the impression, and when you quoted those numbers, we had union leaders and other people quoting that these things aren't that bad. Qantas is still making money. The problem was that we had one part of our operation, the international business, that was losing over $200 million, and we had the other components of the business compensating for that, making profits that was compensating for international, and that position wasn't sustainable because the international position was getting worse. We needed then to communicate in August the size of the problem, what we were doing to fix it, why the problem needed to be fixed, and the scope of the changes that were needed to put it into context.
Mr. Joyce, you take your responsibilities. I accept that you take your responsibilities under the Corporations Act very seriously.
Yes.
There's a duty of continuous disclosure. If Qantas International, as a part of the Qantas business, was losing money back in February up for the first half of 2010-11, wouldn't you have wanted to at least indicate that to your shareholders?
We do meet our disclosure requirements. We do report on a segment basis, and we did report the segment of Qantas and where Qantas is performing. That's my requirements under the legislation. That's my requirements I met, and it's the requirements we continue to meet. And we reported additional information in August about the performance of international. Like, it's not my requirement today to report the profitability of London to the market, and I don't.
And you should.
No, and so the same with international. We report what's required under the law and how we manage the business and how the businesses are performing. And that's exactly what we do, and that's exactly what we continue to do.
Well, Mr. Joyce, my understanding is that you made an offer back in November to the unions to have the books audited. Is that right? One of the big four?
So, sorry, Senator, to be absolutely clear, if the books are audited by KPMG...
No, to have an external...
Let me explain, yes. Senator, I think it's important. The books are audited by KPMG. We're comfortable with that audit. Our board is comfortable. Our shareholders are comfortable. That audit happens every year, like every major company in the ASX. What we did offer to the unions, because this issue keeps on coming up about the profitability of Qantas International, and the unions claiming that that isn't true, and that International is not as bad as that, and there's costs being moved to other segments. We said that is not true. Our CFO sat down with the unions, including the pilots union, with our auditors for a significant amount of time to go through each of the items that they raised in immense detail. That was not sufficient to convince them that this was an accurate representative of the problems. So we did, in good faith, offered an independent audit where we would invite in one of the big four. We had two conditions. That had to be one of the big four. It couldn't be KPMG because they already do an audit. But we wanted it to be a respectable, large accountancy firm. But secondly, that we wanted the audit to bring the issue to an end. That we wanted the unions to declare that this is an end to the issue. Qantas International is losing this amount of money. Jetstar and the other components are making that amount of money. That offer was sent to the last offer was sent to the unions in early November, and we're still waiting for a response.
I think there's been, I spoke to advisors to the pilots, to APA, the pilots union this morning, and my understanding is that that negotiations are stuck as to the extent of the audit, whether it would be, for instance, either a positive assurance audit or whether it would be an agreed upon procedures to stipulate the scope of the audit. So as I understand it, there's still negotiations as to how detailed the audit could be.
We have presented a detailed proposal to the unions about the scope of the audit. As you know, Senator, you can do an audit to an nth degree which is not material. We have said that we want the audit to be relevance to material issues. Otherwise, the expense of the audit, the time involved in the audit will blow out of all proportions. So it needs to be reasonable and it needs to be material. And we are involved in the discussions of the scope of the audit in that case. But we have made that offer of a material audit to determine whether the reporting that we've said is material, fair and balanced.
But it's fair to say that at the moment there is an impasse as to what the nature of the audit should be, and that's why the audit hasn't actually occurred yet. That's putting it in neutral terms. Putting
it in neutral terms, Senator, we're still in dialogue about the audit. We put a proposal to them, and we think that our proposal is fair, because I think if this was to be complete, it should be material issues, and not deciding whether engineer Joe Bloggs, when he did half an hour work on Jetstar, should be allocated to the P&L. That's not material. Material items in relation to the millions of dollars that we're talking about, to say on a material basis, is Qantas International losing more than 200 million? Is Jetstar making more than 200 million? And do we have a problem on international? I think that's what we all want to get to. That's what we've volunteered, and we're still waiting for that to be closed.
Can I just go to the issue of Jetstar and Qantas? I think Mr. Dixon, your predecessor, I think back in 2004, he said, look, Jetstar is not going to get beyond about 23 aircraft. In an interview with Alan Kohler on the 4th of December 2005 on Alan Kohler's business program on the ABC, he made reference in the order of, it's going to be about 20% of the size of Jetstar, won't be bigger than 20% of the size of Qantas in relative to Qantas. At the moment, I think Jetstar is 86 aircraft compared to Qantas's 198, which is about 43% in aircraft, and I don't know in terms of capacity what that means. It's planned to go to 131 aircraft. I think Mr. Buchanan can confirm that by 2014. Qantas will go to 215 by 2014. They will need about 61% of the aircraft in the fleet would be Jetstar aircraft. Does that mean that there has been a clear change in strategy from what your predecessor said about the growth of Jetstar, so that Jetstar will eventually subsume the Qantas brand?
Well, I don't know the particulars of that interview, Senator, but I do know the dialogue I was having with Jeff Dixon at the time, and the 23 aircraft referred to the initial operation of aircraft that we approved for Jetstar. We did have options for aircraft, and we did have Jetstar in Asia starting up. So Jeff and myself always had the view that Jetstar could have had the opportunity to grow significantly, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think, in fact, what we're showing here is the success of a little Australian brand created from nothing 7 years ago to growing to 88 aircraft, faster growth than Ryanair or EasyJet or Southwest have experienced, the largest low-cost carriers in the world. That's a great Australian success story. And any business that sets out at the start will have a business case and a plan. It will have opportunities and options that it can take. And if the business performs better than that original plan, of course the leaders of that business are going to expand it faster. Of course the leaders of that business are going to take those opportunities. And that is a great success that we've gotten Jetstar to that size. And it's fantastic that we can look forward to growing Jetstar going forward. I also want to be in a position where I can grow Qantas aggressively. I want to be in a position to turn around the international business so that we can add more aircraft to international and expand it at the same rate we're growing Jetstar. I want to grow Qantas in the domestic market, which we are. I want to continue the 10% growth that we're having in Qantas regional operations and add more Dash 8 Q400s to our domestic regional fleet. We will take whatever opportunities exist to grow whatever business exists, and that's a great success for Australian industry if we can do it.
Well, can we go to Jetstar Asia? You can only be a 49% shareholder in that, correct? In terms of your Asian businesses, because of various requirements. When you gave evidence on the 25th of February last year, you talked about the issues of safety. You said, well, we can always withdraw our brand from an airline if we're not happy about safety issues. Is that a fair summary?
We have a whole series of different measures, Senator, that we apply to subsidiary companies. And I think probably any company in Australia that has subsidiary companies around the world would do the same thing. We do have audits that we conduct ourselves, and we have a group audit activity. We have when we co-share on a carrier, for example, we co-share on a whole range of carriers around the world. We assure, because the Qantas code, Qantas selling activity takes place on it, we have a whole series of procedures that we use in how we audit those airlines and make sure that we're comfortable with that brand being associated with those airlines. It's no different from these subsidiaries in Asia. We also have additional we also have affiliate airlines. For example, Cobham Airlines, which we don't own, operates aircraft on our behalf. We have zero ownership of that airline here in Australia, but we do have the Qantas brand operating on it, and we do have the same audit activity that takes place with them to ensure that they are acceptable to us with the use of the Qantas brand.
Mr. Joyce, in your opening statement back on the 4th of November, I know we were distracted by events that occurred just recently, but you said in terms of the Qantas Group investments in Asia are well within the Act's intent. You go on to say they are business in which Qantas is investing, but the revenue and profits will flow back to Australia, enabling us to invest in our Australian operations and protect and grow Australian jobs. You still, that's fundamental to your strategy.
Absolutely.
But if we go to Jetstar Asia, there was an article by Scott Rochford in the Sydney Morning Herald on the 19th of January 2009, where he basically said that subleases to sister helped struggling Jetstar Asia post a $4.5 million profit. Looking at subleases, the account showed how Jetstar Asia earned $21.8 million Singapore in sublease revenue in the 12 months as against $12.5 million the previous year. Is that, in other words, if it wasn't for the subleasing arrangement, Jetstar Asia would be making a loss? Is that a fair summary? And perhaps Mr. Buchanan could answer that.
I think the first thing I'd say is don't believe everything you read in the Sydney Morning Herald, but in more seriously, I'd say that the commercial operations of Jetstar Asia was set up as an independent business, and they operate leases on commercial terms. There is no cross-subsidy.
So when you say commercial terms, does that mean at market rates?
At market rates.
So if there's a lease, it's the sort of lease you'd expect.
Yes.
In business, in any business.
I know the details of this one.
I was going to say, actually, it's a mistake of it's a misinterpretation of the facts, because in fact, what that line item refers to in the P&L is referring to wet leasing back and forward between the two businesses. So in some instances what we do is one carrier will operate a flight for another carrier, and that may be because of aircraft availability, traffic rights, a number of different reasons, and we often do it for short periods of time. And it's designed to help us build a business in markets that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get into. So it's got nothing to do with actually aircraft leasing.
Can I actually clarify, Senator, that was from 2004, was it?
The article was on January the 19th, 2009, referred to, I think, the 2000, just for the